And call this meeting to order. Dr. Thomason, roll call.
President Reese, members of the board, please let the record show that we have all 5 board members present tonight.
Perfect. Mr. Thornock has let me know that if we reach a certain time, he does have another commitment. So if he gets up and leaves during our meeting, that would be why, but we may be finished by then. All right. We're going to go ahead and have a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, we'll go on to the agenda. I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. We'll go on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Thomason.
President Reese, members of the board, we do have lots of recognitions tonight, and at this time I'd like to invite Michelle Reese. Michelle Reese is not here tonight. Mom Martin's up to introduce our special Points of Pride programs for 2 elementary schools tonight. Mom.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight. I can't be a substitute for Michelle Reese, but I'll do my best. So I've got our wonderful schools and principals here today to introduce our Points of Pride and all the individuals who are great individuals that are part of our school community as well as our communities within the district. So I'm first going to introduce our principal and assistant principal of Coronado, Ms. Michaela Swan and Mr. Brian Griggs.
Sorry, my hands were full. Dr. Thomason, Cabinet, President Reese, and Governing Board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to recognize some amazing people that we have at Coronado. I'm super excited about this year's Points of Pride group because they are amazing and they make our school such a great place to be. So first up, I would like to have Ms. Vicki Kane come forward. She is our certified Points of Pride this year. So Ms. Kane is an outstanding teacher. She is actually the only original teacher we have left since Coronado has been here. She has so many great ideas, a wealth of experience and knowledge that she shares with our teacher. She's a fantastic mentor teacher to student teachers that we have, interns, and our brand new teachers. And we couldn't do what we do with first grade without her, so thank you. Next up, we have our classified Point of Pride, and that is our plant foreman, Rodney Mater. Rodney is amazing. He is the best plant foreman I've ever had. Anything that I need done, he does it, or he reads my mind and does it for me. He will be there in a heartbeat. If I ask, hey, Rodney, can you come and fix this? Yes, right away. He will do things without me asking or finding things. He is just amazing. I can't do anything I do on campus without him. Our school is such a safe place. Everything is well run, and it's all because of him. So thank you, Rodney. Next up, we have our student Point of Pride, Miss Adeline Prinke. Miss Addie is a 5th grader at our school, and she is the sweetest student I think I have ever met. I call her my little teacher. She has taken it upon herself to be kind of the role model for our students. You will see her in the cafeteria with her lanyard and a whistle. And she walks around and she helps our kindergarten students open up packages, help them with their juice boxes. She is referred to as the cafeteria lady by our kindergarten students. She has the best smile. Every morning when I come out into the playground, she runs up to me and asks me to say something on the announcements in the morning. A little code word that we have is tomorrow is what? Friday Junior. So I have to say today is Friday Junior, and that's her code that she knows that she has helped us with the announcements. So she is a great student. I can't wait to see what she's like as an adult. So thank you, Addie. And last but not least is our volunteer extraordinaire, Mr. James Hauserman. Mr. Hauserman has volunteered at Coronado for many years. He is our orienteering expert at science camp. He comes to science camp every year and teaches the students how to use compasses and apply math into science. He also helps with our after-school sports teams. He is such a great role model for our students. He is such a great helper for our teachers. And we absolutely love him. So thank you, Mr. Hauserman. Yes, and if you could please introduce who you have with us today.
Actually, I have my 2 daughters, Rebecca and Tricia, and all my grandchildren but one, and some other visitors visiting with us. And my wife is with me too. I better not forget her, or I'll be really in trouble.
I have my grandma and my 2 sisters and my math teacher with me.
My husband came with me tonight.
My wife, Gwen, here.
Thank you. Next, we have our principal and assistant principal from Cortina, Miss Kelly Papke and Miss Dawn Michelson.
All right. Good evening, everyone. So this is the part of my job. One of the parts. There's many things that I love about my job, but I absolutely love being able to recognize our people because without them, we wouldn't have the school that we have. So we are going to start with our certified person, Miss Natalie Lascarides. So Natalie is a second grade teacher at our school, and although she's only been with us for 2 years, during the time that she's been there, she has contributed so many different things. She is a wealth of knowledge. She shares so many different ideas. She jumped right in her first year and just got involved in committees and what can I do to help, and hey, I have experience with this. And so she shares all sorts of things with her grade level team and people outside of her team. She's just a breath of fresh air. She has such a positive attitude, and I enjoy having conversations. We kind of have little side conversations often about instruction and just the passion that she has. I just adore and admire and so much appreciate everything that she does. So thank you, Natalie. All right, and our next person is Miss Leslie Fessler. Come on up, Leslie. Now, Leslie loves attention on her, as you can tell. But Leslie is really, truly an amazing human being. This summer, without going into too much detail, but this summer, Leslie and her family experienced some really unfortunate things that they were going through, and a really difficult time for her and her family. But Leslie has been extremely just so gracious, so strong. She is just strength and grace, and I am amazed at everything that she has been able to juggle and still come to school smiling and doing her job with such diligence and efficiency. She's a model for other people, other sites for attendance. She's our attendance clerk, and other schools are like, what are you doing, Leslie, and how do you do it? And because she does such an outstanding job. And all through this process, through the summer and at the beginning of this school year, she didn't let the hardships that she was going through impact what she did every day. She came, smiled. She is the person that everyone comes to when they need a good laugh. She can, no matter what is going on around, the craziness and everything, she can make you laugh, make you smile. She has such a great attitude and such a great perspective on life, and we are so fortunate to have you, Leslie. And Leslie loves hugs, so I'm going to give her a hug. All right, and yeah, we have the wrong name on there. Our volunteer is Miss Alex Thornburg. Now, Alex is new to Cortina this year, and I can't tell you enough how lucky we are to have her. She has, from the day that we knew she was coming to us, and I talked to her on the phone, and she was like, I want to be able to get involved, and I want to, volunteer and help you guys out, and she has done that. When we had our book fair, she was there every single day from start to finish, helping out and doing everything that she could to assist. She goes into our library and helps our, with shelving books and just anything that she can help, she's there and willing to do. And when you encounter her, she always has such a great smile and a happy disposition, and we'll just share fun little conversations whenever you talk with her. So we love having her and appreciate all that she's done thus far, and look forward to continued interactions with you. So thank you, Alex. All right, and last but certainly not least, I see his smile out there. Mr. Hayden Haskett is our student. So Hayden is a 6th grader this year at Cortina, and Hayden, his teachers had so many positive things to say about him, and I have had the pleasure of working directly with Hayden as well. He's been a Tiger ambassador. He is a student leader. He's a part of our, he's a treasurer for student council this year. And he's such like just the model student. He's the kind of kid who one of his teachers said, he's the student who, if he has a 98% on something, he's going to ask, well, what can I do to get 100? And then once he gets the 100, what can I do to get 102%? And he'll just keep pushing till he, you know, he challenges himself and he wants to do his very best. Another one of his teachers talked about how Hayden truly looks for ways to apply his learning and take whatever he learns and just really run with it. And so he's passionate about his education. He's responsible. He's so respectful, so polite, just cares about other people. And we are just very lucky to have him as a student. We're proud of him. We're going to miss him when he moves on to the middle school next year, and just look forward to the wonderful things that we know you're going to accomplish as an adult. So thank you, Hayden.
My mom's here with me and my friend and teammate, Levy.
Okay. All right. My husband David is here, my daughter Kaylin, my son Nathaniel, and Miss Tanya Waddell.
My husband and son.
My family, Miss Waddell, my principal, my assistant principal, and my grandma.
President Reese, members of the board, we do have some exciting events coming up. Halloween is just around the corner, and then we have our next governing board meeting and work study on November 14th, starting at 6 p.m. right here in the district office. And then November 22nd and 23rd, we do have our Thanksgiving holiday. We also have a Veterans Day holiday. What was the date on that? November 12th. So we have Veterans Day holiday, November 12th, that we forgot to put on there, but that we have that coming up too. And then on December 12th, we have our next governing board meeting right here in the conference room, at the board's meeting room at 5:30. The other event that we need to celebrate, it would be our annual charity event that we have for scholarships for arts, athletics, and academics, and that's coming up on November 30th, and that would be our Monte Carlo night at the Elegante Center.
President Reese.
Mr. Glover?
I just wanted to pause for a moment and let the families that are here, you're not hostage. It's perfectly okay if you don't want to stay for all of the meeting. It won't hurt our feelings at all. But you are welcome to stay, but it's, yeah.
Well, Mr. Glover, you know how to clear a room, don't you? All right. Then we will go on to board comments. I hope everyone had a good fall break. There's been lots of events that board members have been at, between competitions and athletic events and everything. And we had our board self-evaluation this past weekend. That went really well. And any other board comments?
President Reese, just want to make sure everybody knows there's a big football game Friday night that should be fun and safe.
Yeah, President Reese. May I? Just last evening, not yesterday afternoon, I, along with Mr. Kelly and the tech department, organized something for 6 area schools to come in and talk about Microsoft products and collaborate and exchange. And I think that's the first time I'd ever been involved with Higley doing something like that on my end where I work. And it was great. So I just wanted to say thank you to Mr. Kelly and the tech department for making it worthwhile time spent.
President Reese, I'd just like to make a comment that we went on a tour of Chaparral the other day. What a wonderful school and great community support we have there. And also went to a couple band programs. One was at Higley High School and also this last Saturday at Williamsfield, and couldn't be prouder of Higley school system. And our bands did an outstanding job and represented us well.
Yes, Mr. Wojtovich, I was there as well, and they did a fabulous job. Williamsfield is actually traveling out of state this weekend, so they're going to miss the big game, but their band is traveling this weekend to compete in Bands of America, so on that more national level. So that should be exciting to hear about. I just wanted to make reference, too, that our board members also had a joint meeting with the town council and the mayor, and it was a really good meeting. It was very informative, and many opportunities for our district and our town to work together. So I'm really excited about that. And then we also did have a business partners breakfast for several of our local businesses to come in, see what Higley's got going on, and make some connections with our administrators, and if they can create some more partnerships.
President Reese?
Dr. Thomason?
I would also like to recognize the board on the self-evaluation that was completed this weekend. I do believe our board holds himself to very, very high standards, and you guys are a little harsher on yourselves than you should be. I'd like to recognize that the Higley Unified School District Governing Board is the leader not only in the Southeast Valley, but also in the state, and nationally, we are recognized also. We have more board members attend social meetings and events than any other board that I know of in the Southeast Valley in the state of Arizona, including national events. So thank you for all the hard work you do. You guys are a little hard on yourselves for your self-evaluation, and you hold yourselves to extremely high standards, and the community thanks you for that.
Thank you. Any other board comments before we go on? Thank you, Dr. Thomason. That was very nice.
Just one more shout out for the band, the Williamsfield band. Good luck to them. They sound great. I think they're going to do fantastic at the competition.
All right, we'll go on to request to speak to the governing board. We have no request, so we will go on. To consent, I move that we approve the consent agenda items as they are presented.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding consent agenda items? Mr. Glover?
Okay. Well, this is just for the good of the board and people in the audience that don't know. Due to open meeting law, we can't talk about any of the stuff that's in this packet that we have to vote about. So we communicate with the superintendent and our questions get answered. But for item 6.12, Dr. Thomason and I did talk. It is it's like a 52 or 54 page new special ed policies. And I just asked to make sure that the special ed department chair, Ms. Miller, communicates that to the it's good to read those things if you haven't read them in a while and you've been in the special ed classroom. You probably know all those, but to make sure that that gets communicated out, and if any administrators needed to see it, it is a lot of policy, and it's a good reminder because I don't think we read it all the time, every year sometimes, and this is new, and that's all we talked about. So I know you'll do that anyway, in the spirit of communication and our strategic plan, just to make sure that everybody's aware. It's a lot of stuff in there.
On that same note, Mr. Glover, I had on my notes, I was going to say, Mrs. Good, can you explain this policy in a nutshell? And then I said, no, I can't have you do that. It would take us all night.
The answer would have been no.
But these policies are available for review. It's on our website. There's links to them. If you have nothing better to do and want to know and be informed, they're available. So if you're interested what these new amendments are to the policies and the regulations and see the exhibits, they're all there for the public to review as well.
President Reese?
Mrs. Kaler?
Mrs. Martins, for item 6.14, I noticed we're excusing our Spanish teacher. Do we have a long-term sub in there that speaks Spanish? I know that was a concern we had last year at Sossaman, and just want to make sure that's a tough one, I know.
Yes, it is a tough one, and I know that Miss Nancy Diab is working hard. We did get a little more notice this year in regard to the specific incident, and so we worked with getting a sub as well as who does speak Spanish because of some connections that we had.
Oh, good.
And then hopefully looking to fill the position long-term in January.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions on consent? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. So we don't have any old business items, so we'll go on to our action and information items. We will start with 8.1, which is our fiscal year 19 monthly governing board financial report for September. Mr. Holland does a great job reporting that information to the board, and it is available publicly as well. Mr. Holland's not present, but does anyone have any comments or questions maybe Dr. Thomason could answer? Okay. Then we will go on to 8.2. I move that we approve the award for chiller replacement at Santan Elementary for RFP number 18-11-18.
Second.
Any questions or comments?
President Reese,
Dr. Thomason?
I would just like to remind the board of the hard work that our operations team is doing. This is a school facilities board paid project of over $225,000 that keeps money within the Higley Unified School District that we don't have to pay for. So I just want to recognize them for their hard work and dedication to the district.
Yes, Dr. Fowler has worked tirelessly on that, as well as Mr. Buteholtz, and it takes a lot, and they don't make that process very easy. So we do appreciate your time and dedication, and that saves the district a lot of money, so that money can be used elsewhere. So we appreciate that. Any questions or comments regarding? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 That motion carries 5-0. We will go on to 8.3 for the course guide. Well, I move that we approve the changes to the 2019-2020 Higley Unified School District High School Course Guide. Mr. Ratovich, sorry. Okay, any questions or comments regarding the summary of changes?
President Reese, I do have a couple questions. I was looking through the course guide, and I've received some comments as I've been out in the community from families. And as what the concern is amongst the families is that when a student signs up for an AP class and the student is enrolled in dual enrollment, the family pays the dual enrollment fee, and then they're also assessed the AP fee. When the student is not taking the AP test and they've told the instructor they're not taking the AP test, that we elect to charge the family this fee. Other districts are not doing this, and I'm just a little confused, and I've received a number of phone calls from families because some of the family members that are out there that have a number of children in high school, and they're being assessed 25, 25, 25 all the time on these classes when their students are not taking the AP test. It just kind of concerned about that in reference to the process because it doesn't seem to be the norm across the valley, and for us to take a look at that.
President Reese, members of the board, we heard the same from the community too, that the $25 charge was a sign-up fee for the AP test, that all that would be refunded for any students that did not take the test. That was a refundable charge, and you will notice in the new course guide that we removed that, so that will not be happening as we move forward in the future. We did hear the same sentiment from the community, and so that has been removed. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
So that's going to be
President Reese, members of the board, this is a highlight of the changes for the course guide. The entire course guide will also be brought back for ratification by the board at the next board meeting. This is just the changes that we plan to implement for the new course guide.
On that same note, Dr. Thomason, so the AP fee will be $10. We will not require the $25 deposit. I'm just trying to think about, like, I know like a dance class is $25 and there's certain fees that are paid. But with our AP classes, it seems to me that sometimes kids are put into a class that they don't, like their schedule doesn't always stick. And I know like last year it was a bookstore nightmare, kids changing and getting out and things like that. So the $10 is the like the materials
Materials fees for the AP classes usually have a higher need for materials and different books that are approved by the College Board.
Have we talked about maybe waiting until like 2 weeks into class to start those fees, or?
We have not talked about that. I know at the time of registration, when they're paying all their fees, it's easier to get kids and families to go ahead, to pay ahead. And there's something we definitely can talk about.
I hear maybe next year we're going to have an online option. Is that something we're still
We're working on that. We're hoping to get that taken care of for next year.
I know that would really help, I think, a lot of the payment, then refund, and I know that was not necessarily easy.
Nobody wants to make a payment and then receive a refund. That's double the work for our staff and headache and problems for our community too, so we're trying to get rid of that redundancy.
Dr. Thomason, as we look at our course guide, have we had a discussion in reference to, because as of October 4th, the AccuPlacer, the test has changed, and we're aware of that, and we're working with this in reference to reflection on our course curriculum, because that's going to affect a lot of students, because I believe it's a 2.6 now, and you're not have to take the placement test any longer. So we're going to start seeing some different numbers, I think, in our schools in reference to enrollment in classes as a result of some of that.
Absolutely. President Reese, Mr. Witovich, you are resonating with the meeting that I just had today with Chandler Gilbert Community College President, Dr. Peterson, and we will be making those changes as soon as we can and as soon as we get the information from the Chandler Gilbert Community College and roll out the different options. There will be at least 4 different options for the AccuPlacer test and opportunities for students to register for dual enrollment classes other than what we're doing now with the AccuPlacer.
Dr. Thomason, I'm going to go back to the AP fee for a minute. And the way, and I know you said that we will receive the entire course guide, that this is just a summary of changes. So when we approved the new AP fee last year, it was because, like you said, their materials change every year, and ensuring that we have the appropriate materials for those AP classes is why that fee was put in place. And then a portion of that fee was going to the AP test if they took the AP test. The wording, and I don't know what the wording is in the course guide, we will not require the $25 deposit. I'm a little concerned if that's the wording, and I don't know because we don't have it yet, but if you can take this back, because there is a deposit for the AP test that is due by a certain time. It's not the deposit paid at the time of registration for classes and at the beginning of the year, but there is a deposit to take the AP test that does have a deadline. I just don't want any confusion because we will still require a deposit for the AP test. It just won't be prior to school starting. So can you just take that information back to make sure we don't have any confusing language in there?
Thank you, President Reese. We'll take that back to our high schools and our counseling team to make the recommendations to make sure that it's clear. And then when we bring the course guide back next month for approval, let's make sure that we have it written out so it's clear and understandable for everybody, the board, our community, and our students.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I know that in order for us to order the AP test, we do take a deposit to ensure at the time we're ordering the appropriate number of tests. And then they pay the remainder. They can choose to pay the full thing at that time, but then they can pay the remainder prior to the test. And I just didn't want any confusion if it happens to have the same language when we request that deposit, that going back and saying, well, this says we wouldn't have one, so.
That is correct, President Reese, and it goes back to what Vice President Kaler was talking to a minute ago, is that we're no longer taking it at the beginning of the school for registration, because students sometimes may change classes mid-year or within the first 2 weeks, and so it would be helpful to make that clear in the course guide for when that needs to be paid and not at the beginning of the registration period.
Perfect.
Dr. Thomason, this is on page 7, excuse me, and this is maybe more specific and more appropriate for Dr. Mallerwine, but for AP Chemistry, I see that previously a prerequisite was Algebra 1, but now there are no prerequisites. I'm just curious why that change. It just seems to me that if a student's going to take an AP Chemistry course, they probably should have had at least Algebra 1 to prepare them, but perhaps there's a better explanation that I'm not aware of.
President Reese, Mr. Thornock, I'll have to get together with Dr. Mellerwine to find out exactly why those prerequisites were taken off, but we do want to give all students the opportunity to take classes that they would enjoy, but I cannot see a junior or a senior having not completed at least Algebra 1 and Algebra 2 before they get to that level, and so I can find out what the reason is specifically for that, but I could imagine that if a student transferred in from out of state or out of another district, they may not have those prerequisites on their transcripts. They want to take an AP class. We also have some students that have been in the gifted program that have come up through the system and have wanted to test outside of their classes that they've taken. So if a student wants to take the AP exam, they still have that opportunity to do that. And we'll get more clarification from Dr. Mellerwine on exactly why that was put in there.
Yeah, Madam President, well, I think it also relates to the tracks that they have set up for kids that they wouldn't, by the time, like you said, by the time they get to 11th grade, they will have already had those things. But I'm going to take another pass at something. Two things. One, in the middle school credits, there was some tidying up of that wasn't there prior to I think Monday, maybe, the changes about Spanish 1A and 1B has been made more clear how you would earn 1 credit, so thank you for clarifying that. I think it's much more clear now. And then I know I'm the kid who keeps asking his parents until he breaks them down, so I'm just going to take another pass at middle school credit. Again, in my opinion, if they're taking high school math in middle school, we're giving them an elective credit. It would be my preference that they get a high school math credit, and then when they get to high school, we're making them take 4 more years of math, it seems to me that we're making kids make a decision to take X amounts of math in middle school, and life changes, and not everybody who's good at math wants to really, by the time they're a junior, have to take some of the higher level maths. I know you can speak to, and I will let you, and Dr. Schillenberg, some of the other opportunities in math that they have that they could take, but if we really just want them to get to like a level of calculus or something and they get there, it's perfectly okay with me if they get 4 credits without having to sit in a seat taking 4 years of math. So that would be my preference to change that. I know I'm in the minority, but it's food for thought because it's just an elective credit, even though they've basically taken a high school level course. So that's all.
President Reese, members of the board, Mr. Glover, we do follow the state law when it says that we have to have 4 years of high school credit. And you're absolutely right. A student on our accelerated tracks can take Algebra 1 and geometry even at the middle schools. We do push our kids in the Higley Unified School District, and we're pushing them to take 4 years. And a lot of that is because case studies have shown students are more successful taking 4 years of math before they move on to post-secondary educational opportunities. But with that also said, we do make exceptions for many students that need something different. We do have a math class at the senior level that's financial math that is not past the Algebra 2 level. We do have opportunities for students to take math classes for arts programs and arts degrees as they move past the high school level too. And so we do have lots of those opportunities. But your point is not falling on deaf ears. We do have students that we know we're looking at different options for, including embedded credit within different classes through EVIT, embedded credit through different classes for automotive or veterinary technology or even cosmetology. We're taking a look at some of those options. But at this time, we're pushing kids for 4 years of math of some kind or another within the Higley Unified School District, knowing that there will be some options and opportunities made for those students that require it.
So one of my questions, and I'm not sure if this is Dr. Schillingberg or Dr. Thomason, but I was hearing some of our more gifted and excelling children, when their parents found out that, oh, this isn't going to count anymore, like we're doing 4 years of math, and they said, well, I'm just going to have my son take geometry in 8th and honors geometry in 9th, so that they're not moving up. Are kids actually doing that? Are they repeating math classes so that they don't move up? Because to me, that's kind of, do we have that in here that they can't just take the same class again?
President Reese, members of the board, Vice President Kaler, that is not something I'm aware is happening. I think what we have to understand is, why are we accelerating kids? We accelerate kids because that's where their challenge level is for instruction, and because they want to take higher level math that they cannot take if they don't have that acceleration. We also had the issue when I came here that we'd have kids who were not taking math their junior, senior year. They were going to college and being placed in remedial math because they had such a long break between their math classes. So as we work to be nationally recognized district, we want to make sure that we have our kids taking top classes and challenging themselves and helping them understand, if you don't see yourself taking, these higher level math classes, then there's no reason to accelerate yourself at your younger age. You should just take the regular math class. I can tell you my experience I've had with all the kids we are accelerating, I haven't seen any of them not excited about it. So I think we're doing a pretty good job with that. It's just, I think before we were the only district in this east side, East Valley, that was giving credit. None of the others were giving credit for the middle school. I can tell you where I came from with some top performing high schools, they did not accept the credit in middle school either. They would accept the class, but you would not get that credit unless you took it in high school.
I just hope that, I guess with Mr. Glover's concern is that it's 6th grade and these kids are having to decide, where they're going in math. And so just having those good conversations with them and meeting with them and one-on-one and kind of showing them where this is headed so that they know exactly where they might end up in 12th grade with different Q. And so, and that's hard as a little 6th grader to kind of process. So I just want to make sure we're having those conversations and getting that communicated to our parents correctly too.
We're actually setting up meetings with the 6th grade students and parents to explain these pathways, help understand it. But like Dr. Thomason said, if there is a student that is an exception here, we're going to make an exception for them. We're not trying to make this so that anyone isn't successful, but we think if we start them out and with the idea that you're going to take 4 years of math in high school and take the challenging classes, for most it'll be great. But we will always work with individual people.
And I think there's another side to this conversation as well that Dr. Thomason referenced. When there's kids that have a gap in math, they have a harder time picking it back up in college, but it doesn't always mean a higher or accelerated level of math. We're requiring math in all 4 years, and even if they're on grade level, calculus may not be for them, so they need a different option, and they're working on those different options. So it's not just the accelerated kids, it's requiring the 4 years of math to ensure that they're staying up on math skills. It's not necessarily the level of math skills, but that they're staying up on them. And I know that as we've had this conversation, whether it be an accelerated student or a grade level student, that next level of math may not be for them, and to find alternative classes that could be considered a math credit. Similar to some of our electives, they can take band as their PE credit, but then it can be repeated as an elective credit. And I'm not saying to repeat the same class again, but there could be a different class that's not calculus or pre-calc that can be considered a math credit for those students who just aren't math people. So I think we need to kind of keep that all in perspective. I know we do have the question and concern when we have these kids who are taking calculus and they're sophomores, where do you go from there to ensure that obviously their level of math is a higher Excel type class, but the 4-year requirement, I think, is important for them to continue to stay up on math skills in any fashion, whether it be a finance class, whether it be a general business class, and they're having to learn to do budgets and, hey, the cell phone in their hand, they have to pay for. At some point, their parents quit paying for it. And that money management, that can be considered, because I can tell you with my kids, even a higher level of math to understand that financial piece. So just to make sure that they're staying up. So I think that we need to look at both sides, not just the accelerated track, but to make sure that those who math is just not for them, that they have an option to take without putting them through calculus. If they know they're not a math kid and it's not going to happen, putting them in calculus is not the answer.
Right, and just this year we added a new class called college math for those students who calculus isn't what they're interested in, which is really college algebra. So there is that other option for students as well.
So that way they can continue
with math, but
because they're going to, if they go on to community college, university, they're going to have that college level of math, but they may not be ready for it. So, and Dr. Thomason, correct me if I'm wrong, same with our Spanish credits and our math credits, those were only guaranteed high school credits in the past in our district. So if they took that high school math in 8th grade, they were only guaranteed that math credit if they went to one of our high schools. If they went to a high school out of district, it was up to that school whether they accepted it or not.
President Reese, members, that is absolutely correct. The policies we have set within our district only allowed us to speak for our district, and so our math classes and our Spanish and Mandarin classes at the middle school level may not be accepted in other districts as high school credit at the 7th and 8th grade level.
So potentially, if we have an eighth grader taking that algebra class or the geometry class that they would have typically gotten high school credit for if they went to one of our schools, if they moved outside of our district and attended another school, they may be repeating that algebra class or that geometry class because that other district's not necessarily going to recognize it or require them to test out of it, whatever their policy is.
That may be absolutely correct. And vice versa too, President Reese. There are other school districts that may have credit issued at the middle school level that we may not accept for high school credit within the Higley Unified School District also. We review the transcripts and make those decisions on an individual one-to-one basis.
And I do have to say, as a parent who's currently working with their child on university applications and college applications, we've had to go back and talk to admissions office staff when it's come to scholarships. I can tell you NAU specifically, because my daughter received the high school credit in middle school, and it negatively impacted her scholarship because she had that high school credit. It just came as a pass-fail. And so through conversation, that was fixed and it was changed. They said, oh, you took that in middle school, but it did take us going back to do that because of how our transcript reflects that.
President Reese, members of the board too, also a situation that has occurred within the Higley Unified School District is a student that has lost a scholarship for not taking a math in their senior year as they move forward to their post-secondary educational opportunities. And so that weighs heavily on our mind too, as students that would lose a scholarship for not taking a class that we recommend or that is part of our educational program.
But, sorry, just to be clear on that, so are we saying that that instance was somebody who had 8th grade high school credit, or just?
The individual did have their 4 high school math credits within the Higley Unified School District, one being taken at the middle school level, but they took a year off their senior year from math, and they were denied their scholarship that they had already received because they didn't take math their senior year.
May I ask which school that was? Because that's, sorry, tell me later. That's.
I will get that information for you in the
Yeah,
superintendent's report.
Wow.
Yes, that did happen to one of our students, and we ended up getting it taken care of, but we had to write letters and explanations and requirements of the district and pass on our course guide and show the level of rigor at our middle schools for that student. But it was not a fun situation to be in.
And every university and college is different, and I know looking at that as I'm going through and applying at these colleges, that they are looking for that senior math because they want that semester transcript to see that you are taking your courses in your senior year. They want to make sure you have at least your core courses. So.
Well, and I defer to the expertise of those who deal with this on a regular basis, but I would just urge caution, if we've established this requirement of 4 years, and then the 4th year we're kind of bending over backwards to create this general finance principles course, a college could conceivably come back and say, well, this isn't math, this is kind of frou-frou, wannabe math, but in our zeal to uphold this 4-year requirement, we've kind of painted ourselves into a box, then holding it out to the students that, oh, you'll be okay. So I'm kind of with Mr. Glover. I think it might be a safer course to require 3 years as opposed to 4, just because we're kind of painting ourselves into a corner. But
I would just add, that's why we added the college math class, because the financial algebra class is not really for the kids who are on that calculus pathway. The college math was a way if you weren't ready for calculus but still wanted a challenging math class, you could take the college math.
Well, I thank everybody for the conversation. I think that was good. And I like that we talked about both ends of the spectrum, too, of kids. We're not just concerned with the kids who are whizzing through and ending up in differential equations. We're talking about just some kids who are, going to cosmetology school or whatever. It's good. So I thank you for that, and thank you for humoring me. But these are the conversations that help us move forward and get better.
Thank you, Mr. Glover.
And like you said, we don't get to have these conversations outside of here, so it's definitely appreciated. Any other comments, questions regarding the course guide? All those in favor? Aye.
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 That motion carries 5-0. We will go on to 8.4. I move that we approve changes to the 2019-2020 Higley Unified School District Middle School Course Guide. Any questions or comments regarding the middle school course guide?
President Reese?
Dr. Thomas?
I just wanted to mention a thank you to Mr. Glover for helping us clarify some of the wording within the middle school course guide for our foreign language credits.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I saw you looking through your notes. Okay. No other questions or comments regarding that? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 5-0. 8.5, I move that we approve physical therapist contracted services RFP number 18-08-23.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding this item?
Madam President?
Mr. Glover?
Just one, in case you guys hadn't checked your revised packet, I want to thank probably Ms. Miller, maybe? Okay. We had the scores, but then there was no explanation of what the scores were, so adding them helps us understand what exactly we were looking at so that we know that we're supporting you and making good decisions, and I appreciate the extra information. I know it was probably extra work on a Monday morning that you weren't expecting, but we appreciate having that information so we can make decisions that help support you guys.
We owe the thanks to Mrs. Shauna Miller, who's here tonight, Karen Finn, who helped put out the RFQ.
Thank you for all your hard work and making sure, like Mr. Glover said, we have the information that helps support you. Anyone have any questions or comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion carries 5-0. All right, we're on our items for future agenda. Dr. Thomason, do you want to briefly review what we have coming up, please?
President Reese, members of the board, for the work study for November 14th, we have our ELA adoption and accelerated reader updates. We also have our preschool increase that we would like to propose to the board for the November 14th meeting, and our classified salary schedule for the 2019-2020 schedule. Unfortunately, Mrs. Martins will be at a conference at that time, and so we'll have a brief review of that. I'll answer the questions to the best of my ability, but we'll wait for the expertise for the hard questions for when Ms. Martins comes back in December.
Mr. Ritovich?
Madam President, when are we going to have our update in reference to our technology? That was a workshop that I thought was going to take place this fall from the summer, and this is already October.
Dr. Thomason?
I will look toward Mrs. Reach to ask her, do we have that scheduled at a date yet? We will get that scheduled for the following work study after November 14th.
President Reese
Mrs.
and Dr.
Carroll?
Thomason, I'm kind of interested in a work study. It's not a rush by any means, but I would love to have a work study on stipends, the who, what, and the why. I read through those and I'm completely baffled, to be very honest, on many of them, the reasons why, who, and so I think it would just be really nice to have that as a work study sometime to go over stipends.
We will definitely get that on the list.
I have one other suggestion, perhaps throughout the next school year, is if maybe we could have some type of overview of what we're doing for our high school students in reference to life after high school. and how we are preparing our high school students for the journey once they walk across the stage at graduation. If we could have some type of overview or workshop, that would be wonderful.
Would you like a review of the ECAP and the post-secondary educational strategies for students?
That would be that would be great.
And Dr. Thomason, I just wanted to point out the future guidance counselors' mental health awareness follow-up coming up. As President Reese mentioned, we had a meeting with the Gilbert Town Council, and we talked about this kind of mental health as well. And so I commend President Reese for the continued emphasis on this. We can't be an answer to everybody, but it is important to continue that message. So thank you, President, and thank you to the Gilbert Town Council for their focus on this important issue of mental health for our students.
President Reese, Mr. Thornlock, thank you for that acknowledgement. To let you know a few things that are happening in that area is we do have the East Valley Board Consortium dinner that we'll be presenting. We also have the East Valley Schools Consortium put on by Mayor Daniels in the town of Gilbert that we'll be presenting at. We also have a Higley Unified School District presentation coming up. Chandler Unified School District has their presentation coming up, and so does Gilbert Public Schools have their presentation coming up. And so this is a community issue. This is not just a Higley issue, and we're working in conjunction with the community college, the town of Gilbert, and all the surrounding school districts.
Thank you. All right. Well, I think we have a list for future agenda items. And in the interest of time, based on how we have scheduled our new board meetings, if there is an item that would fit as an information item throughout one of our board meetings versus a work study item, I would just like to ask that you consider if there's an item that we can do as an information item during one of our board meetings. Looking at this, and the reason I say this is we're going to have our ELA adoption update and the classified schedule. That's in November. We only have one meeting in November. We only have one meeting in December. And so we're looking at least January for the update. Mr. Ratovich is asking for technology, and Mrs. Kaler asking for stipends, and Mr. Ratovich asking for information on after graduation. That could put us into March or so before we were able to get to all of this. And I'm not saying a work study can only be one item. I just don't know what else will come up during those times, that if you feel it be appropriate during one of our scheduled actual board meetings to just add it as an information item where it can be presented and we can talk about it because it's not a voting item, such as perhaps stipends, Canvas, something like that, where we just need the information. I would just ask that maybe you consider that, so we're not still looking at March or April before we're getting to some of these topics.
Absolutely. President Reese, members of the board, we will take a look at those, and I'll work with cabinets to put some of those on board meeting nights as informational items.
Yes, that would be great. Where our work study can be more focused on items that will be coming up for us to vote, where we can have more conversation versus, hey, we just want to let you know this is what this is. So that could go as an information item within our board meeting.
Looking at the proposed work study schedule, I believe a Canvas update might be a great informational item that we can put on there, and also some of our guidance counselor mental health awareness issues that we're hitting throughout the state, and you guys will have information on that at just about every meeting we go through the town of Gilbert and through the Arizona School Boards Association. So those might be two great opportunities to have informational items for the public.
Perfect. Because we can receive information items and we can still have conversation. Those aren't items that we're voting on, but because it's in a public meeting, doesn't mean we can't ask questions because it's an information item. So Perfect. Thank you for taking that into consideration, so that way we can prioritize and receive some of this information in a timely manner. All right, if we don't have anything else to add to our future agenda items, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Have a good evening.